Welcome to the Center for Transformation Institute podcast, where we are uniting therapists everywhere for personal and professional growth. Your journey starts here, at the place therapists grow.
Joel and Joca, it's so good to be with the two of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be with you as well.
I've been awaiting this conversation for a while. I think that Claudia introduced us by email, many months ago.
Yeah, she was very excited and she said, Joca, you need to meet Monica.
That's right. Yes. And I think even Marlene Allen had mentioned you as well, in that your name precedes you, that you are there in Mexico doing some wonderful work with a life model and teaching and training and also doing some counseling there. And Joel is your fabulous husband that is there right alongside. Claudia Henriks is the life model executive team member who serves Spanish-speaking countries. So you've gotten to know her.
Yeah. She's been in our home also, and our boys love her, and
I actually worked with her as a teacher. We did an exchange between our students, and so it's been fun to work with her in different areas. I had a chance to work with her as an educator, and we've been able to work with her now as part of Life Model. So that's been really cool.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love hearing that. Oh, good. Yeah, so Claudia is wonderful. Marlene is admiring the work you do there, and they thought it would be great for us to meet, and here we are. So this is wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for having us, and we are very excited to tell you all what are we doing and how we get to know the life model.
Yes. Now, can you tell our listeners a bit about the ministry that you have there in Mexico?
Yeah, it's exciting because we're kind of pioneers down here in some ways. I felt like at one point, Hoka actually got started in the ministry before I did, which you'll hear a little bit more about that later on. But after we got married, I just felt like the Lord brought us together as part of His plan for us was to be in ministry together. We both love to teach. We're both passionate about the life model and the principles that are, taught by the life model. And so it just seemed clear to me after a little time in the U.S. that the Lord was calling us to Mexico to bring this model, these concepts, this way of interacting with Him, of knowing God, of growing, joy, maturity, all of these things. And the concepts are so needed here in Mexico, and there just aren't many people who are familiar with this way of looking at Christian life and growth. So I actually work full time as a teacher, teaching English. But together we teach online, and we also teach conferences when we have the opportunity. And anytime we're invited to teach at a church, we try to put life model into whatever it is that they invite us to talk about. And obviously we're working on growing ourselves and with our three boys, developing the concepts, and we just have the vision and the hope in the Lord that eventually we can be full time together in ministry. I'll let Hoka talk a little bit about what she does in counseling and about our online community.
Yeah, and we also have the support of Dr. Wilder and everybody in Life Model. We have an online community since the pandemic, a little before the pandemic started, and we're teaching almost all the books that they have, and they come online. They teach for the people in the community, Dr. Wilder, Ed Curry, and Claudia's husband.
Yeah, we've had Michael
Hendricks.
Of course, he joined us one time.
Yeah. So we have people supporting us here in Mexico with this ministry. And sometimes I do counseling. I have some people during the year that I'm working with them. And of course, this is a ministry that impacted my life. So I'm very confident to teach or to share the same with the people that I'm working with.
That's wonderful. And you have an undergraduate degree in psychology, and then also some supplementary education with Deeper Walk International.
Yeah. And also with the life model, I went to their cohort that they have,
The Leadership
the
Collective.
Leadership Collective.
Mhm.
I was part of the first one.
The first one.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've kind of gone to all of these additional trainings and you bring all of that back to the ministry, and then particularly some of the one-on-one work
Yes.
for individuals. Yes. So y'all are called to Mexico, and you're in Puebla?
Puebla? Yeah, Puebla, Mexico.
It's about 2 hours east of Mexico City.
Okay. And
We
with
have
the
no,
ministry to the community, you have an online presence. And is the online presence only to people in Mexico, or is it all over the world?
Well, we have had people connect from as far away as Argentina.
Guatemala.
We've had people from Guatemala and from the United States, Spanish speakers. I can't remember if there are any other countries, but it has reached out beyond the borders of Mexico, and that's one of the great things about being online. And it's not a huge group, but it's been kind of a core group of people who, whenever we offer a course online, basically every time a new book has come from the Life Model, we've done our best to try to get a summary of it into Spanish and teach it to this group of people and whoever joins. So it's been really fun to work with them, and we have some people who have been through, Joy Starts Here, and they've been through the other half of church, and they've been through the Life Model book, and in Spanish. We don't have the books in Spanish, but as we translate it and teach it, they've been able to learn the concepts, and then they take those concepts and apply them wherever they are. So that's been really, really exciting.
I had a friend who just went to Nicaragua on a missions trip, and she was asking for the manual journaling in Spanish. So I asked Claudia, do you have this? And she got me the document. And so I was just thinking, wow, I bet you all have a ton of those kinds of curriculums and such handouts for people that have been translated. Wow, that's amazing.
Now, right now it's mostly PowerPoints or, just little presentations that we've made with bullet points of some of the key information. But we hope, Lord willing, that there can be more translations in the future, because there's a real hunger down here in Spanish for all of this information. They always ask us, when's the book coming out in Spanish, right?
That's right. Mexico, South America, and even in Spain, there's a lot of Spanish speakers all over the world who would really, really benefit from that. I'm so glad for the work you're doing. So if people listening want to get a hold of you all and your ministry and want to access some of this material, how would they do so?
Well, they can look for us on Facebook. That's kind of the main place where we are, or could be by email. The Facebook is Comunidad, in Spanish, Transformadora, which is like transformative community. That's the name of our Facebook page. And by email, they could write us. It's joelandjoca@gmail.com.
And Joca is J-O-C, right?
Right, yeah. Thank you. Joel and Joca, it would be with the English pronunciation.
That's right.
Joca.
Okay. And is it a nonprofit ministry? Is there a suggested donation? How do you handle that kind of thing?
Most of what we do is without cost. It's the courses that we do online. From time to time, we'll teach a workshop, and there'll be a suggested donation for that. People usually here in Mexico, the best and most common way is bank transfers, and so that's kind of the way that usually works. We also have PayPal if people need another option, or Zelle. So most of what we do here, we don't charge for. It's something that we've received, and we try to give as freely as we can. But when we do charge, that's how we usually do it, just for specific events.
That's wonderful. Oh, it's good to hear about your ministry and all you're doing. You may be the main ambassador to Mexico for Life Model.
We hope so. We were very grateful for what we have been receiving.
Yeah.
And Dr. Wilder has been supporting this ministry, and Kitty. And so whatever we can give, that's what we do also, because we know it's hard sometimes for people to pay. And also the support that we receive from Life Model, they don't charge us. They just support for free, whatever we're doing here in Mexico.
That's wonderful. Yes. And so you can, you know, continue to give there as you are being given to as well, so that this information can get out there as quickly and most efficiently, effectively as possible. I love that. Okay, so here's the big question. How did you hear about Life Model? Like when did you come across it? How did you find each other? And like how did this all get started?
Yeah, in 2000, Dr. Wilder came to Mexico, and my sister Clement, she was part of an organization that brought him to teach, and she invited me because I was studying psychology. And well, I went, and I was pretty amazed seeing how he was mixing theology and neurology, because at my school they didn't even teach that. They were teaching that very, very little. It was 2000, so it was very new for us here in Mexico. And I was finishing college, and I had to do my thesis, and I decided I was going to do it on the control center. So I was very excited, and I asked him if he could help me. He said yes. And I told the faculty in my school, and they said, "Oh no, we don't have anybody here who can supervise you. We don't know about the topic. So why don't you just make a test and answer a test and get over with it?" Because they didn't want me to do that. And so I said yes, and I used that time to translate some materials from Dr. Wilder, and that was the Living from the Heart Jesus Gave You study guide. I translated into Spanish, and some material that he was using to teach. That's what I did. That was my thesis for myself, and that's how I met him. He gave me many material for me to research, and well, access to his documents because I was translating them. And that's how I started studying it. And then he led me to use them to teach in Spanish.
That's wonderful. So that's the year 2000.
1000, yes.
Okay. And Joel, how did you get looped in on that?
Well, I met Joca in 2005, I think it was, and I was actually living in another city. We had a mutual friend who introduced us. And in 2006, when we were getting to know each other and I was starting to think that this was going to be serious, I took a trip back to the US. I was living in Mexico at the time, and my mom told me, "I want you to watch these videos. This guy's so interesting. This is like the new thing that she was learning about." And it was this Dr. Jim Wilder. And so I listened to these videos and thought, wow, that's really interesting. And at the same time, Joca was telling me, "I'm going to a training with my counselor, and it's called Thrive, and it's in, this place." I think it was Michigan. And I asked her, "Who's this counselor you keep talking about?" "Oh, his name's Dr. Jim Wilder." Like, that's the same guy. And so that kind of clued me in that there was something going on here. This must be important. And so Joca brought back the Complete Guide to Living with Men book, and she gave that to me as a gift. And I was just blown away. I had never heard this way of looking at life. And for me, it was like, I remember I read that book and I thought, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to quit English teaching, and I want to do this. I don't know how, but this is where I want to be. Well, I'm still teaching English, but still moving in the direction of being in this area. But it just was, for me, it answered a lot of questions for me. And it just seemed so clear that this is how life should be. And so I was really excited to learn more about it. And so after we got married, well, basically, Joca put me in contact with Dr. Jim, and he put me in contact with Chris. And Chris Corsi has been mentoring me over the years. And they just helped us out so much with learning about the material. And so every time a new book would come out, we'd get it and read it. And once after we got married, we had an opportunity to teach together a couple of times. And from there, that's just been kind of how we got into it. And we've just continued from that point.
Oh, that's such an exciting story. And so what I'm hearing from you, Joel, is that you are an educator by training.
Right.
Yeah. And so you went to school over here in the United States, in California.
Right. I actually studied history, and I studied Mexican history, and that's how I got interested in Mexico. The Lord used that to bring me down here. And so once I graduated, I was substitute teaching, and then I felt called to come to Mexico and serve the Lord here. And I trained to be an ESL teacher. And so I've been doing the two, ministry and teaching ever since then.
Wow. What a story. And so, and how many years have you been married now?
15. We just celebrated 15 years.
Happy anniversary. Congratulations.
Back in August. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I have a little tickle in my throat. I need to get some more.
Fine. We have 3 boys. One is 12, the other is 10, and the youngest is 8.
And what are their names?
Jose, Matias, and Jeremy.
Oh, I love that. Jeremy,
Jeremy.
Jose, Matias, and Jeremy.
Jeremy. Yeah.
They're great names. Oh, that's awesome. And so you're going to be in Mexico for the duration, Joel. You have moved. Have you become a citizen there?
Not yet, but it's probably in the future. Yeah, we have settled here, and as far as we know, this is where we're going to be.
Yeah, and this is their ministry to that population. But what I'm understanding is that, yes, on the one hand, you're ministering to the Mexican population, but also because of you're translating this information into Spanish, that can impact so many other countries.
Yeah, we just hope to get it into Spanish for whoever can use it, because there's so many people who could be benefited by it.
Yes, it's that you're actually pioneers. You're really pioneering this effort in the Spanish speaking countries. So I admire what you're doing and thankful to be getting to know you. And now I think a specific question I have, it sounds like Joca, for you, when you came across Life Model in 2000, you thought, oh, this is interesting. I'm going to school for this, and I'm seeing that this is kind of a gap in the information that I'm learning at school. This is really interesting, and I want to get a hold of it. And Joel, for you had a very shalom experience of having, on the one hand, your mother giving you these videos, at the same time, your fiance going to training in the same curriculum. So it was like a God moment of, oh, this is going to work. But what was it specifically? Like, if you could hone in on what caused you to just perk your ears up and say, this is something worth paying attention to, as educators, as academics, you are in this world where there's a plethora of information. There's so much information out there, so many interesting concepts and modalities and theories, yet you've chosen to land here. Why is that? What is it about? I want our listeners to hear specifically what it is that has drawn, individuals in. And so what's drawn you in?
Yeah, my father was a pastor, so I grew up in church. But then I realized I was traumatized by many hurtful comments or actions inside the church. So in 2000, I have decided in my heart that I will stop going to church. I was going to keep my relationship with Jesus, but not with his people. We were going separate ways. That's the year when I met Dr. Wilder. And when my sister invited me to his conference, I didn't want to go because I was thinking, oh, same thing. This is a Christian counselor or psychologist, and he will say the same things and how you need to do this or that, and the formulas and the big words, and just nothing very real. But I went, and then I met him, and every day he was saying, I'm praying the Lord show me or ignite the passion for somebody here in Mexico who wants to teach this. And he just kept teaching, and every day I was seeing in him what he was teaching. It was not just the words, but his example, because we have the chance to interact with him, eat with him, like the disciples with Jesus. We have that chance, and I saw that there was something different in him. He was very joyful, and he was very humble. He has access, very, very easy to access to him. And what you were seeing in when he was teaching, it was the same when he was just eating or resting. So that impacted my heart. And then later, time passed. I was reading the Living from the Heart Jesus Gave You, and there was a phrase that it touched my heart very deeply. And it says something like this, where your you have your bigger heart is your passion, where your passion is.
Yes.
So that's when I heard that the Lord told me, so where is your bigger heart? And it was the church. He said, I want you to go back to my church and minister my church. And that moment was a healing moment for me also, because I haven't heard that. Why did you want me to go there and if they hurt me? But Jesus was healing me. And years later, I was very sick. And since that time, the church has been healing and supporting me and giving for the needs that we have. But I had to go back to that place.
Yes.
But now it was with Jesus and seeing how it looks like to live a life according to the heart that Jesus gave you. I think that was the most impactful thing for me. That's why I said, yeah, I want this, and this is real. This is real. It's not fake.
That is an amazing story. That is a testimony, right? Because it's not just about one concept, is it? It's
No.
really about a calling that you have. And I like to say life model is not the Bible, but the life model helps us understand the Bible and understand what God's given to us in the scripture. And it brings it to life in terms of community and personal relationship with Jesus and the way to be his character on the earth. And so what I'm hearing you say, Joca, is that as Dr. Wilder came into your life and started presenting these concepts, that the Holy Spirit was drawing you.
Yeah.
And so it's not just the concepts, it's that you feel called.
Yeah, he became my mentor. And every time that my father died soon, time later, so he became my mentor, and he said, everything you need, you can tell me. So we were emailing, and I used to ask him things to direct me as a young lady in my life. And every time he would say, why don't we ask Jesus? You ask Jesus, and I will ask Jesus, and then we will talk about what he told us. And he said that for many years. And one day I was writing him an email, put in my heart, and then I remembered, he will tell me that why don't we ask Jesus? So why don't I just go directly to Jesus and ask him? And that was another training that he gave me, that I had to go with Jesus. And yeah, that's part of the life model. It's not you come with us and we will solve your problems. We will come with you, and together we will go to Jesus, and he will give us the answers. And that's part of what I do in my ministry in counseling. I'm here as a companion, but we want to find Jesus together.
Right. Oh, I love that. So it's not about a personality or
But the skills.
oh, yeah, exactly. It really has to do with connecting to Emmanuel and finding our place of attachment there.
Yes.
And our place of direction and guidance will come out of that attachment. Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's an amazing testimony and just to hear. I think you've been blessed to walk alongside Dr. Wilder, or, that he has taken that special time with you all of those years. And now as it's like what Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ. And as you've been able to walk with Dr. Wilder and absorb his way of being in the world, you're able to then transfer that to the people you work with.
Exactly. And we also learn a lot from Kitty because she became our premarital counselor, and then our counselor after we got married, and she was like a grandma to our kids. And that's another story. That's a big story, but yeah.
Part 2 podcast on that story. What a blessing. And Joel, did you have anything to add to what Joca is saying?
Yeah, I think I really agree with the part of just the Holy Spirit. I mean, I can see how God brought us to this model and brought it to us, and I just really see him working in that. But for me, it was a paradigm shift. It was an answer to questions that I had because I grew up in the church. And I read the Bible and I looked around and it was like, this is not happening, And so I got to a point where I was like, either the Bible's not real or we're so messed up we can't get it right. We can't live it. So what's going on? And I had in my heart for a long time, I had this question of why don't we live like this? How could it be that Paul talks about, this kind of life, that Peter talks about this kind of life? And when I read it, it sounds so great. And I think that I continue searching and I continue trying to follow the Lord because what the Bible talks about sounds like what I need and what I want for my life, but I just didn't see how to get there. And so I just saw this huge disconnect between what I was reading and what I was seeing when I looked around in my own life, when I looked around at the church and kind of how we interacted and how relationships were like. And so when I read the maturity, the model, when I read about joy, when I read about traumas, it just all made sense. It was like, now I have the explanation for why what I read in the Bible isn't always happening in my church experience or in my Christian life. And it gave me a blueprint to know where to go and what to do. Now, it's been a lot more difficult than what I read. And when I read it, it sounded so easy. I was just like, oh yeah, just get some healing, just grow some maturity, just grow some joy, and we're on our way.
Right.
It's been a lot more complex, but it gave me hope. And that's one of my heart characteristics is hope. And I think the life model has given me a real hope, a realistic hope of how we can grow and really become like Jesus. So for me, that was the main thing. Those words, those explanations provided a model that I don't find in anything else. Still, even the maturity model, I still don't hear it in many different places that I hear people talking about growing. So it continues to be something that's like, this is gold, just a practical way to know how to live out what I see in the Bible.
Yes, I completely agree. I completely agree. And that it's like the information's been out there for now several decades, and somehow it's not commonplace yet. So it does feel like it's something really special and it's worth paying attention to, right? And so I think that would be the final thing I would love for you all to speak on. Just if there's therapists or other professionals or anyone listening to this recording who are thinking about, there's so much out there, I don't really have time to dig into something new. What would you say to them?
Yeah, something very, very important here in Life Model is that they teach you about joy. And joy is a game changer. When you have joy in your life, you can endure hardship and you can become more resilient. Many people, they don't even know what joy is. And I think that I was one of them. And when you learn about joy and you share it with the people that you work with, that they feel love, that they feel care. Maybe you don't need to teach them with words, but the way that you're treating them is different. That's what I saw in Dr. Wilder, the joy that he had with the people around him.
Yes.
creating him belonging. So joy is one of the most important things that they teach you, and also maturity. For me, I was able to heal knowing, oh, this people is a baby. This person is a baby. That's why he's doing this. It's not because he wants to hurt me, but he doesn't have the skills, or they don't have the skills, or I need to mature more because maybe they are not trying to hurt me. It's me that I need to grow in other areas. So I would say joy and maturity is something that they will teach you, and they will show you how to practice it and how to show it to different people. So that's the most important thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just say it has missing elements that are missing in many other models are here. And I think it just gives a complete model for getting to the roots. And that's something I've always been passionate about is restoration and finding the root. You know, what is the root of this? And instead of just trying to do the fruit picking that we hear people talk about, you know, where you're just trying to treat the symptoms. I think the life model really goes at the root. When we talk about attachment, identity, joy, rest, you know, maturity, these are things that if you do these things, you transform as a person. And so the behaviors that we're trying to help people to eliminate, they'll go away when the transformation happens. But a lot of therapy is focused on stopping the behaviors, and the transformation doesn't happen. So I think this model just has a way of presenting the scriptures in a way that really can bring about that transformation. And so that's why I would say it's really worth digging into, because I think it will give you some elements that maybe you're missing, and maybe just the missing pieces, you know, that can make your ministry so much more effective. Getting at the root, laying a foundation for people to really grow and change, and to have a lot more joy and see more, you know, better results in whatever behaviors they're trying to deal with.
I totally agree, Joel and Joca. I really concur with what you're saying, especially this idea that it's not really about just a concept. It's about an applied concept, right? Oh, yeah, I know what joy is, or I know what maturity is, or, you know, this kind of thing. It's more, oh, I've been transformed by joy. I'm experiencing it, and it's changing the way that I see life, the way that I do relationships, the level of capacity I have to deal with difficulty. That's what I hear you both saying. It's like it's about the application in your own life, and then out of that, because that's what Wilder did, right? He outpoured what he was experiencing, and you were like, oh, that's different. And now you're doing the same thing. You're going to your students and your clients and saying, this is what I'm learning and growing in. Now, I do know it can help you.
Exactly. We have tried firsthand, and we know it's hard sometimes, but now we can see also people through the eyes of Jesus. And I think that's something very important. But you need to see other people doing it so you can learn it, not just read in a book.
Yes, that's so good. That's so good. Well, I am so glad we did this today. Thank you so much for this time. And I'm sure everyone who listens is going to be blessed. So Godspeed to you both, and your, you know, your marriage, your family, and your ministries. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you,
Thank you.
Monica. It's very nice to be with you today.
Yeah, so nice.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Place Therapists Grow. We hope you will join us again next week. To expand your knowledge and continue your growth journey, go to cftinstitute.com and take our introductory course to find out how the life model can enhance your life and your clients' lives too. We look forward to continuing to learn and grow with you. See you next time.